For this problem, we're going to graph cosecant. And when you're graphing cosecant, you want to first graph sine, and then graph the cosecant part. So let's graph sine first. So sine is going to be, it's going to be y equals negative sine. And I'm going to go ahead and take out this 1/2 to begin with because I like seeing it that way. I like seeing the x with the 1 in front of it, and then I take 1/2 away from pi, just pi. And if you take 1/2 away from pi, that's dividing. So it would say 1/2, or I'm sorry, pi divided by 1/2. Okay, when we factor out at 1/2, we're dividing. So pi divided by 1/2 would be the same as pi times 2 over 1. When you do that, you get 2 pi. So 2 pi, is it plus? Yeah, it's plus. 2 pi is going to be our phase shift. And then we have a minus 1. Now, you should know what every single one of these things does to the sine graph. That flips it. The 1/2 changes your period. Okay, the 2 pi is your phase shift, and so it shifts to the left 2 pi, and we go down 1. It says plus 2 pi right here, but remember how you always think the opposite, so it's really going left 2 pi. So I guess you would write minus 2 pi for the phase shift. The phase shift wouldn't be plus 2 pi, it'd be minus 2 pi. Now to find the period, you take 2 pi, which is the normal period for the sine function, and you divide it by 1/2. When I do that, I get 4 pi. So I have 4 pi as my period. Okay, those two things I like to find first before I start actually graphing it. Now think about this. Think that you know what the sine function looks like. You know it has this little s thing like that. You know that right here is 1, and you know that right here is negative 1. You also know that this is 2 pi, and this would be pi right here, and this would be 0. What's this one? Okay, this is pi over, no, not pi over 4, pi over 2, and this would be 3 pi over 2. Okay, you know that. If you don't know that, know it now, like memorize it. Okay, and I'm going to use this concept right here to graph this guy down here. And so I always start with, okay, where do I start? What's the first point of this cycle that I'm trying to graph? And right here, it's 0. Okay, but I know it's not 0 for the graph I'm trying to graph. Well, how come I know it's not 0? It shifted. It shifted what? Left 2 pi. Okay, so it shifted left 2 pi. So instead of starting at 0, we're going to start at 2 pi. That's where our beginning is going to be. And so is it going to just be this? No. We still have more stuff to do. That's just our starting points. Okay, now, where's the period end? The period's going to end at 2 pi. How do we know that? Because the period is 4 pi. Okay, so knowing the beginning and the end helps us see how to draw our little our sine curve. So here it was 2 pi. So I knew that it would be like this. We have our maximum, our minimum, our other intercept, which is right in the middle of the curve. Okay, but this time we're going to go from negative 2 pi to 2 pi because the period is 4 pi. So it's going to be something like this. Like it's going to finish right there, okay? But there's more to it than just drawing it like that because there's more stuff that happened to our line. So once we have our beginning and our end, we know the middle and we know the other 2 points. So we know this one and we know the other 2 points. So these are our x values that are the most important to us in graphing. That's a whole cycle right there, right? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x's. So that's going to be our cycle. Now, why can't I just do this? Why can't I say, okay, it goes up 1, then it goes to the intercept, and then it goes down 1, and it goes back to the intercept? How come it doesn't just do this? Because it shifted down. Okay, we don't want to forget the shift. And it did something else. It flips. That means whatever is the maximum now becomes the minimum. So we don't go up first, we're going to go down first. Okay, but let's do our vertical shift first. What is our vertical shift?
-1.
Yeah, it's -1. It says right there. So because it's -1, I'm not going to start on the x-axis. I'm going to go down 1. And then when I go to my next x value, is that going to be like a point right there, up 1, or is it going to be down 1? Down 1? And how do you know it's down here? Because of the negative. It flipped. And then it's going to go back to the midline. It's no longer the x-intercept. It's now the midline. And then we go up or down after that. So for this point, are we going to go up or down? We're going to go up. And we're going up from our midline. So we go up 1. And then we're on our last x number, and I'm going to go back to the midline. And so here's my sine graph. See, I got the curve going on there. Okay, not bad. Okay, there's our sine graph, and I dotted it because it's not the graph we're trying to graph. We're trying to graph the cosecant. Now to finish it, to graph your cosecant, you just have to put asymptotes wherever the line crosses the midline, and then you go off the minimum points and the maximum points. And so what you see in orange is my graph. Alright, now let's find the other stuff. It says find the range. Now remember, we're looking at the orange lines, not the sine line. We're looking at the cosecant line. Okay, so it looks like right here, let's see, we always start from the bottom up, so I'm going to, like, on our y-axis, we're going to start from down here. It looks like these arrows point down, so we're going to have our lowest number at negative infinity, our lowest range number, so we have negative infinity, and where's it going to stop at? It's going to stop right here, because there's no no orange line in this area, so that's like a blank area right there. So we stop at -2. Is it included?
Yes.
It's included, and then we're going to union with that. We're going to combine that with from 0 to infinity, okay, because that's where the rest of the line is. So we have 0, which is included, to positive infinity. So there's your range. Find all the x and the y intercepts, but don't forget to read the rest of the directions. The rest of the directions say from the interval 0 to 2 pi, find all the x and y intercepts. And so we do have this intercept, and that's in the range of 0 to 2 pi, and that intercept is 0, -1. And the other intercept I see is right here at pi, and that's pi 0. Oh wait, is there one more? No, there's no more.
It's not, the blue graph isn't part of our line, so we should...
Yeah, well, okay, I understand what you're saying. You're saying the blue graph is not part of our line. You're right. Oh, yes, there's no y-intercept. Oh, touche. Okay. I was like, I was thinking about this point. Well, yeah, no, it still intercepts there. You're right. Thanks for keeping me on my game there. All right, so there is no y-intercept here. There's only the x-intercept. That's our only answer. All right, the next one, it says identify the asymptotes. Remember, it's just in this interval, so we just need this asymptote and this asymptote. Is it x equals or y equals? X equals 0 and x equals 2 pi. If you say 0, 2 pi, that's fine. I got you. All right, that's it for that one. Now let's look at the graph where we have to write the equation. Okay, now let's look at this bottom part. Now this bottom part, you have to write your equation, your function. Okay, so the first thing I look at is, well, where are all my asymptotes? Okay, so let's draw our asymptotes in here. I see an asymptote right here. I see an asymptote right here, right here. And we really just need a period, but I'm not quite sure where everything starts yet. Now, because this is secant, I like to see the cosine curve in here. So I'm going to graph the cosine curve. And I just have to go from each vertex to draw my curve. Okay, so there's my curve. Do you guys see where the midline is?
Yes.
Midline is right here. Okay, now, can you guys tell me what the period is? Like, how are we going to figure out what the period is? And now, the period is going to go from one asymptote to the other asymptote, because that would be a complete sine curve. What is that? Oh, I'm sorry. A cosecant curve. Okay, so let me draw my asymptotes like this. From here to here. Sorry, you don't want to go from asymptote to asymptote. You want to go from vertex to vertex. Because this is why. Here's the vertex and here's the vertex. You guys see this line? That's our cosine line, right? So that's what you want to find the period of. What's that period? That's pi. And that's nice because we have our little point right there. So our period is pi. Let's write that down. Period is pi. Okay, there's something else we need to know in order to write this. We need to know if there's a phase shift, and we need to know if there's a vertical shift. Is there a phase shift if we look at this curve right here?
No.
How do you know there's no phase shift here? Because it starts at 0. And that's what your cosine starts at, right? Starts at 0, so there's no phase shift. So we're going to put 0 right there. And actually, yeah, I can put that in right here now. 0. And then for the period, we put pi. What about the vertical shift? Is there a vertical shift?
Wouldn't it be 2?
Wait, not pi. You're right. Not pi. How do we get pi there?
2 pi over b.
Sorry, if you guys want to find what's supposed to go right here, you go like this. You know that you go 2 pi divided by b equals, and we know it's supposed to equal pi. Because you know how the period's pi? It's supposed to equal pi. So what's my b going to be? Well, whatever you plug in right there to get pi. So if you want to do the algebra way, you don't have to do algebra way. Some of you guys can figure this out in your head. But if you want to do the algebra way, you cross multiply here. So you get b times pi equals 2 pi. And then what would you do to get b alone? Divide by pi. And so those would cancel out, this would cancel out. That's figuring out algebraically. So I would put a 2 right there to get pi. Now the vertical shift is up 1, so I'm going to put plus 1 right here. I know because the midline went up 1. And then did the period change? Or the amplitude, I'm sorry, I said the wrong word. Amplitude, no, it's still 1 right here. Okay, so I'm going to put 1 right there. And that's how you figure out your function.